Hello everybody, what's going on today? I'm going to be talking about, actually my Players Cup 2 set that I kind of hyped up for a while, and then you might have forgotten about it because I wasn't able to post it or anything for a little bit, so we kind of had all this prep work, and then thinking. After that, it was there was no result, right? And so if you're unaware, this is the matchup that I had to play in Players Cup 2, the second weekend, the finals of the regional qualifier, and it was against an opponent who had a really scary team featuring Regigigas and Wheezing. So, obviously I'm doing post-commentary, which I don't normally do. Sorry, so if my camera freezes, I won't be able to tell in this mode. But so I don't normally do post commentary, obviously, but we recorded this ourselves so that Pokemon could commentate over it, and so I didn't do live commentary at the time for that reason. So I thought I kind of could just talk through the matchup, what was going through my head, give some analysis from my perspective. I think by the time that this goes live, Pokemon will have done their commentary as well, so you can check that out from their end as well. But yeah, this is kind of my perspective. So if you didn't watch the prep videos, my plan was basically to do Regieleki, Cortana, Dusclops, and Tapu Fini. Moltres isn't great here. It's okay, it's good against a lot of the Pokemon on the team, but it's not great against Tapu Fini, and it's really not great against Regigigas because it's very difficult to get speed advantage. So my plan was to Dynamax Cortana, basically use Cortana and Dusclops to stall at the Dynamax of the Regigigas, get some damage in the process, and then rely on Dusclops' huge natural bulk, plus potentially some Steel Spike boosts, and then Tapu Fini later in the late game to clean house. That was kind of the general outline of the match. Put pressure on Wheezing using Cortana and Dusclops, just go for raw damage, etc., etc. In my opinion, the opponent was going to bring Regigigas, Wheezing, and then probably Rotom Heat and Regieleki were the most threatening Pokemon from there. But Tapu Fini and Urshifu could also be really scary as well. It's actually Choice Band Urshifu, so if I wasn't careful with Dusclops, I could actually run into big problems. One of the reasons I'm leading Regieleki is just to... One of the reasons I'm leading Regieleki is because it's a more flexible Pokemon if he leads something other than what I expect, which happens immediately. So, the opponent leads Regieleki and Regigigas, two Regis, whereas I lead the Pokemon that I'm going to lead here. Now, this is already not what I was expecting. I expected Regigigas plus Wheezing lead, so this is already a little bit different. But I figure, I don't have to do anything too crazy. I'm just going to stick with my game plan. The opposing Regieleki isn't that threatening to me, so I'm going to double the Regigigas, which is always my game plan. There's a couple things we also don't know here. I don't know if my Regieleki is faster than theirs. My Regieleki is timid, so typically I'm going to assume that it's faster, and I know that they have Magnet as their item. So, so I'm assuming I'm faster, but I'm not positive. But I really have no incentive to attack the Regieleki here. I always want to Volt Switch because I know Regigigas is probably not going to protect here. I want to get some damage on a Regigigas because my Dusclops can't touch it, and so getting damage on it is important. And the opposing Regieleki, since it's Magnet, it has to protect, so it could protect here. So I just choose to double the Regigigas. I'm going to check to make sure my camera didn't freeze. It didn't. Cool. And you can see my opponent's really thinking about this one. So here comes my max. I can't afford to not max because if I don't max, even though I don't get that much stronger by clicking Sacred Sword, if they choose to max Strike me or max Hailstorm me, then my Cortana can get 2-hit KO'd, whereas by Dynamaxing, I mitigate that possibility. I also am much especially bulkier since the opponent does have Regieleki on the field. So they also max here with Regigigas. It's a cool lead because you can Volt Switch into Wheezing immediately, which offers a lot of flexibility in my opinion. So Regigigas does max here, which is not great for me. Sorry, it's exactly what we expected. We always knew Regigigas was going to max, but the Regieleki being on the field makes this a lot more uncomfortable in my opinion. They actually move first here, so this is where the first kind of thing that I realize is things aren't going exactly according to plan. The Regieleki is faster, so and actually does a good chunk of damage as well. I'm pretty bulky on my Regieleki, so the fact that it did that much is not great for me because one of the main reasons for Regieleki being even coming to this matchup is that I can Electro Web stuff to make it so that I outspeed it later, and that I can set screens and stuff before the opponent moves. So the fact that they're faster is really bad. The next interesting thing here is that my opponent actually goes into Rotom Heat, which I wasn't expecting at all. To come in, because Rotom Heat can just one-shot my Cortana, which is really bad. So I'm going to Volt Switch to Dusclops here. I expect them to maybe go for a Max Strike, or I didn't think I could risk bringing Fini in case, because if they went for Max Strike into either target, then Tapu Fini wouldn't work. I would guarantee to underspeed the Rotom next turn and potentially take big damage as well. So I bring in Dusclops here instead. I go for a Max Knuckle into the Regigigas. It does some damage, but like not a ton. Like Regigigas is now at about 40%. I also don't get a defense boost out of this, and Regigigas goes for a Max Strike into Dusclops. So the Dusclops switching in is good, but I'm really out of position now because I never anticipated that they would use Regigigas without Wheezing, and this is actually really threatening because Rotom can just one-shot my Cartania. Even though I'm Dynamaxed, even though I'm Assault Vest, Rotom just one-shots me easily. So, yeah, so things are kind of bad. Additionally, I don't really have a, like, even though I have Dusclops in play and they can't stop Trick Room, I don't know if their Rotom is faster than my Tapu Fini. So, yeah, so I don't really want to set Trick Room up just yet, and even though I can go for another Max Knuckle, in the best case scenario, I trade with Regigigas, and it might Max Guard as well, in which case I would lose it and basically get nothing, and potentially lose the game. So, I don't really have that much to do with Dusclops, so I click Nightshade into the Rotom here. You can see me thinking about it, because like it's like, what do you, like, Nightshade into Rotom feels really bad, because it just feels bad. Thinking about Trick Room, in the end I decide against Trick Room, I go for Nightshade into Rotom. I just don't have anything better to do, and then I'm sitting here like, if I stay in and Max Knuckle and they Max Guard and Overheat, then I'll lose my Cartania, and then I probably just can't beat the Regigigas plus Wheezing. So in order to make the safest play here, I hard read the Overheat. Well, I read the Overheat and switch into Fini, sacking my Dynamax immediately. So I only got one Max Knuckle off, did like a little bit of damage, but I figured this was better just to ensure that like I saved Cartania for the late game, because Cartania is still good here. Like, again, it's Regieleki against Regigigas if it's not maxed, and against Wheezing, now that Misty Terrain is up, like, it's still a really good Pokemon, especially because they don't have a way to overwrite the terrain, but, yeah, like, I'm really out of position at this point, so they're going to go for the Overheat. It makes sense, like, it's like, you always Overheat there, in my opinion. Fini doesn't take that much from it, though, which is nice, 42 damage, which, like, it's not great, because I'm probably in a Thunderbolt range from that Rotom later, but yeah, and Quake comes out as well. Thankfully, though, this is into Dusclops, and not into Fini. If that had been to Fini, it would have been really bad. But because they never actually, like, even though Regigigas is maxed, it actually spent 2 turns not in the slow. It's been a slow start the whole time. So, like I said, I didn't really have anything better to do with Dusclops here, especially since Fini, like, Regigigas' slow start is active. So, yeah, I just Nightshade Rotom again. I don't have anything better to do here, and I expect that Rotom has no reason to stay in here. It's at -2 special attack, so I'm sure it's going to switch into Wheezing, and I'm also sure it's going to Max Strike. Regigigas is going to use the opportunity to Max Strike into my Fini just to get rid of it. So, after learning that my Fini was not as fast as I thought, or my Aleki was slower than their Aleki, oh, I misplayed really hard this turn. Okay. So what I didn't realize until just now is that I see Rotom switches out before Fini. It's going to come into play later in the game that I don't know who's faster between Fini and Rotom. And I should have seen from who the order of Pokemon switching out is how fast the Pokemon actually are. So I should have realized here that their Rotom's faster than my Fini, but I missed it. So that was actually a big mistake. It's important to pay attention to stuff like that. So Fini switches out next. Anyone observing this would recognize that the Fini is now slower than the Rotom confirmed, but I don't pick up on that at the moment. And so I was talking about Regieleki. I think I was saying this when I got distracted, but Regieleki kind of is, it doesn't really have much use in this matchup anymore. Like, it can't damage anything. It can set screens, but it's not even fast enough to, like, I can't, like, Electro Web and Leaf Blade to KO the, to outspeed and KO the Regieleki because it's faster than me. So, yeah, and I just go for a Nightshade here, break the Focus Sash of the Wheezing. And let's see, I feel like this next few turns are pretty complicated. I have to go to Cartania because I'm threatening KOs on the Regigigas. Let's see here. What even happens here is what I'm trying to remember. I think in this position, I have nothing better to do than Nightshade the Wheezing. So I always Nightshade the Wheezing. The Wheezing's moveset is Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, Sludge Bomb, Protect, so it actually can't damage my Cartania. I feel like I don't click Sacred Sword here. Yeah, what am I thinking at this point? Because I can just KO the Regigigas with Sacred Sword. Okay, so I'm trying to think exactly what I was thinking with this play. I think my thought process was that if I Sacred Sword Regigigas and it protects, it does nothing. If I Sacred Sword Regigigas and it attacks, then I KO the Regigigas and Rotom Heat comes in, and then I think I lose from that position because I don't get a Beast Boost. Because I can't really easily switch. They can overheat Sludge Bomb into Cartania, and then like Feeny can't win because my Dusclops gets taunted this turn. So instead, I think I... But why did I Sacred Sword the Weezing? I think that I thought there was a chance that like Weezing would switch out into either Rotom or Regieleki. Yeah, I think I expected maybe Weezing to switch into Regieleki and Regigigas to protect here. I think that made sense to me. But I also knew that if I just KO the Regigigas, Rotom Heat comes in, and I don't think I can beat it because I don't get Beast Boost because of neutralizing gas. So instead I double the Weezing here. Like, not my best move. I just felt like I'm pretty sure that if I KO the Regigigas that I lose there. So I honestly don't. I wish I'd recorded this like right after I played it because I don't remember exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, as you can see, it's not a smart move at all because okay, yeah, like they can't switch in now, or Rotom Heat doesn't get to switch in this turn. But my Cartania still took a ton of damage. So yeah, it's still like not really especially good for me. So yeah, in this position I just have Nightshade and I no longer have a choice. I now think I have to. Yeah, Nightshade, Weezing, and then Sacred Sword into the Regigigas. That's what I should do, yeah. But I don't want to do it because it's the same issue as last time, right? I'm actually going to switch out here. Maybe predicting a Protect from the Weezing and go for Sacred Sword into Regigigas, it looks like. Because, like, I can't let Rotom Heat come in at the wrong time, you know? I think it makes sense, in my opinion, that Weezing's going to protect this turn, because I think at the time I thought, like, they don't want to lose both their Pokemon this turn, because then Dusclops could still win. Potentially, like, if I'm smart about it. So instead I switch Feeny in because I really, like, I'm hoping that my, I'm really hoping that my Feeny is faster than the Rotom Heat. Because if Feeny's faster than the Rotom Heat, what this position does is, it actually puts my opponent really out of position. Let's assume that Feeny's faster than the Rotom Heat, because I think this is what I was playing for. If Feeny's faster than the Rotom Heat can't switch in, I'd spec Feeny, it gets scalded and it dies, you get to Smart Strike the Weezing and KO both, threaten KOs on both Pokemon, it's really awkward. If Regieleki switches in, then it forces this weird mind game. I assumed that Leaf Blade would KO Regieleki because it did a lot of times in practice. So you can Thunderbolt into the Feeny for the KO. I assume you can Thunderbolt into Cartania for the KO with Magnet, but you can't do that while Weezing is still on the field because of Weezing turning off Transistor. So you're forced to switch Weezing out, and if I Leaf Blade and switch out Feeny into Dusclops, I can potentially force like a 2 versus 2 and potentially win the game from there. Especially given that my Cartania in that situation will get a Beast Boost for KOing the Regieleki. So I figured, like, if I stay in that turn, like, if I stay in with Dusclops and Nightshade does nothing. Rotom Heat switches in, I can't KO Rotom Heat. Even if I KO Weezing, like, it becomes like, in a best case scenario, it's Regieleki and Rotom Heat versus Dusclops Feeny, and I should always lose that. So I say, okay, like, I just can't leave Dusclops, and I'm going to bring Feeny in Hard to protect. And I do get that call correctly. However, like we mentioned, their Rotom is faster than my Feeny, and I don't realize that at this time. So in this position, this is awkward. Like, I obviously threaten KOs on their Pokemon, but yeah, this is actually really, I don't even remember what I do. I think, like, either you have to switch, you probably have to make a hard read this turn. Wait, I think there was something more obvious here. You can see I'm considering switching back to Dusclops and reading that Regieleki wants to go for a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch into my Feeny. I actually Moonblast. Wait, I should never Moonblast there. This should always be, at the very worst, it should be Scald. If I'm going to make that kind of play, yeah. Okay, yeah, switch into Dusclops and Leaf Blade into the, or maybe Smart Strike. Yeah, Leaf Blade into the Regieleki. I assume this would KO, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think Weezing is probably, like, not going to be doing anything big here. I am instead going to go for a Leaf Blade into the Regieleki, and try and get a KO with that. Try and get the OHKO with, you know, Leaf Blade, and then maybe going from there. So, yeah, Rotom switches back in. My Feeny is going to switch out here because I really do not want to take a Volt Switch. Also, Weezing wants to switch out there because, number one, it just protected and it didn't necessarily want to go down. But on the other hand, it also... oh, T-Bolt, actually. T-Bolt into my... It was turning off Transistor. And as you can see, that does a ton of damage. Like, that's a 2 KO on my Dusclops. So, I go for Leaf Blade. I actually feel really good until that doesn't KO. If that gets the KO, I think that I have a pretty good chance at winning this, because I have +1 Cartania at this point, but the Regieleki actually is bulky. So, not only is it faster than I expected, but it's also slightly bulkier. And that makes a big deal, because, again, if I get the KO with Leaf Blade there, it's a 3 versus 2, and I think I can go for something like Rotom shouldn't be able to easily KO my Cartania without Overheat, and then it drops its stats, and, like, if it drops its special attack, Dusclops is probably just going to solo, and also it can't... it won't be able to OHKO Feeny, and I'll be able to click Muddy Water regardless of speed. However, the Regieleki is bulky, and so it lives my Leaf Blade, which I was shocked, because I never expected Magnet Regieleki to be timid and Both timid and bulky. At this point, I realize that Trick Room is probably my best bet. You can see that I'm staying with Cartania. I'm thinking to myself, if I take a, like, let's say that I live a Thunderbolt. Hang on, this is a complicated one as well. I'm thinking to myself, if I live a Thunderbolt, then I can get Trick Room up and then potentially, like, win, like, with, like, maybe, like, if my Feeny is slower, then I can maybe win that way, or I'm not sure if Feeny even goes down to a Thunderbolt, depending on how they're trained, because I don't know how the Rotom is trained, and I think it's Citrus Berry, if I'm not much mistaken, so I'm thinking, okay, Feeny plus Dusclops. I think the Weezing might be in Nightshade range at this point, so, yeah. So I go for Sacred Sword into Regieleki here. I think the idea with this is that, wait, I do Sacred Sword, I think, because I think I don't want to get the KO here on the Weezing if it switches in. Leaf Blade? I'm trying to figure out at this point if I want to take the KO or if I don't want to take the KO. It's really tricky because it's like, hang on, let me think through this again. It's like, let's say they Volt Switch and Thunderbolt into my Dusclops, then if I KO Weezing, then it's Regieleki KOs Feeny and Rotom KOs Kartana. So I think I'm thinking to myself, I can't let them get them in at the same time. Excuse me, same time. I need to find a way to. Yeah, so they Volt Switch. So I need to find a way to not let them get in at the same time. Because if they double Dusclops, which I can't stop, which is what they do here, then and a KO Weezing, then I would always lose. So this at least gives me the choice or the chance to, like, maybe, you know, do something crazy and bring this one back. But yeah, actually, a Leaf Blade into the Weezing here. I do not think. Yeah, I actually don't pick up the KO, just barely. I don't. Yeah, I think that was for the best, because if I pick up the KO there, I will lose. But unfortunately, I lose my Dusclops to Thunderbolt. So in this position, it's like it's a little bit tricky because it's like, okay, if the hang on, thinking. If the Feeny outspeeds the Rotom, then, which is like, okay, I think to myself, if Rotom outspeeds Feeny, I cannot stop it from overheating my Kartana. I will always lose, right? There's literally nothing I can do about that. So I have to play for assuming my Feeny is faster, which we already saw it wasn't faster. And if I'd realized that earlier, I might have been able to build a better plan, but I didn't. So I'm thinking to myself, if my Feeny's not faster, I will always lose. If my Feeny is faster, then I can potentially try and use like not let them switch because Weezing is stuck on the field and it's not that threatening. I can potentially use this information to not let them get Regieleki and Rotom on the field at the same time, which is, I think, how I win this. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's say they protect Rotom, and I Sacred Sword into Weezing, get the KO, and then Scald the Rotom. Sure, now I've got the KO on the Weezing, but the Regieleki comes in, it Thunderbolts my Feeny, Rotom overheats, and I lose. So I can't do that. Therefore, I think I have to actually either double the Rotom or attack my Feeny here. I think at this point I was like, oh, Sacred Sword myself, but then I was like, that's stupid. I really need the Rotom gone more than anything. There's a couple of key things that I just basically forgot about the speeds, because the Weezing actually outspeeds my Feeny here. So, which I like totally kind of blanked on in this moment, because it's timid max speed Weezing. So I was thinking to myself, like, okay, like I should double the Rotom here because I do not want to let Rotom, like, this battle is weird because it's so position based. Like, that's at least that's how it felt to me. Like, I was like so focused on like making sure my opponent didn't get into position at the wrong time, that it was like, it made me do some really weird moves. So I double the Rotom here. They actually don't predict the Weezing or the Rotom, which I was surprised about, but it's probably because my opponent realized that their Rotom was faster than my Feeny, so there was really no reason to protect here. But I do Sacred Sword into the Rotom, and they go for Overheat, and they actually miss. So that's a 10% chance of happening, and I got Omega Bailed. Like, I actually got, like, Omega Bailed. Feeny gets poisoned here, it doesn't really matter. And actually picks up the Scald. So I think if Overheat is there, it's literally unwinnable. Like, it pretty much should have been unwinnable, but I got really lucky and dodged an Overheat. And even though I got poisoned, like, at this point I'm really kicking myself, because I'm thinking to myself, Wolf, if you had Sacred Sworded into the Weezing there, like, you would have probably won this, because it would have been a 2 versus 1 and Electro Web won't KO both. But instead, you've got low HP Cartania, and, you know, like, Regieleki can just KO you. But what I forgot about, and I think I actually misplayed this turn if I'm not mistaken. So something that I forgot about is that, wait, am I stupid? I'm actually Omega stupid. I missed so much this game. I feel like I was really playing poorly. I Scald and into the Regieleki, and I Leaf Blade into the Regieleki. That's okay. That's a throw, because Weezing can't touch Cartania ever. Yeah, that was an awful play. Regieleki goes for protect. Okay, Weezing goes for protect as well. Okay, so they want to KO to the poison. However, God, that was so bad. Okay, Weezing can't damage my Cortana except for Will-O-Wisp. So, like, I probably should have just doubled the Regieleki there, but they want to go for protect with both, try and KO with poison. But that was a really bad play. I think Feeny survives though. Feeny survives on 2. It only just 20 damage. So, yeah. At this point, I realized my mistake. I'm supposed to KO Regieleki because then I'll always win on with Cortana in a 1v1 versus Weezing. Not always. If it burns me here, I could lose. But I double Regieleki here because that's what I should have done in the first place because my Feeny survived. I actually could have thrown this. Even after like dodging an overheat, I just played really bad in those opening turns. So. Or in these closing turns, I meant. So the thing is that I thought this game was over because I thought that Regieleki KOs Cortana, but I forgot that Weezing was still in the field and therefore Transistor was turned off. So Regieleki is actually not a very strong Pokemon without Transistor because it's basically always holding choice specs in terms of its damage output boost. So I was thinking, wait, is the camera frozen? No. So I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, it doesn't really matter what I do. Like, I think that's why I clicked the Leaf Blade there because I figured like Regieleki KO'd me anyway, but I needed to leave Weezing alive because it was turning off Transistor, which meant that Cortana might be able to survive a hit. So that was, yeah. But then again, if Regieleki protects to try and force me to KO Weezing, I'm just thinking about this. Like, if Regieleki protects itself to try and force me to KO Weezing, so that Transistor turns back on, like, if it like, and I get the KO, then I would win based on, like, being on up 2 versus 1 because Feeny survived. Like, if my opponent thought I was in poison range, like, let's say Feeny was guaranteed in poison range, I actually think the best play is Protect and Will-O-Wisp there, with Weezing into Cortana and Protect into Regieleki, because in the worst, it's like either they KO the Weezing and then it's a 1 versus 1 and Regieleki always KOs Cortana, or they double Eleki and you get a burn. So I think actually my play was good if I expected them to think that I was in range of poison. So yeah, I kind of got bailed by the poison as well because I think it influenced their play. But actually, because I turned off Transistor, which I think I forgot about until just this moment, they do less damage, and Leaf Blade picks up the KO, and now they can't stop Feeny from KOing Weezing and burn Cortana for the win. So they go for Sludge Bomb here, and I somehow am up Cortana versus Weezing in a 1 versus 1, and I'm able to win. So honestly, I think my opponent outplayed me. I think I fought hard, and like I don't think that it's like. I mean, I think I deserve to lose this game because, like, my opponent outpositioned me, and that, like, even though I didn't make it super easy, and, like, it wasn't like I was, like, just being stupid, I just, like, got out of position early game, didn't get enough out of my max, and then, like, was just really on the back foot the whole time. And so, like, although, like, I don't know. Although, like, you know, I was smart. I made more or less good choices for a lot of the game. I missed some crucial information which affected my game planning. And, like, honestly, I don't know if I could have done anything, even if I had realized that, like, Rotom was faster than my Dusclops. But I probably would have played it differently nonetheless. So, yeah. Like, I feel like I don't win games that often based on my opponent just, like, missing a crucial move. Like, I feel like just based on my playstyle, that doesn't happen that much. So it was... I definitely got, like, Omega bailed there because, yeah. And it was still really close. Yeah, so I'm able to win game 1, and actually that gives me a lot of momentum going into game 2, and specifically, my opponent, I realize, has no real reason to adjust, right? Like, they played better than me, and they should have won, and they lost on a 10% chance, in my opinion. So I think that, like, I'm like, okay, they're probably going to do the same thing again, because they feel confident that, that what they did should have worked, and they lost on luck, which is true. Like, that's how I felt as well. But knowing that, I was like, okay, the reason why I wasn't just leading Dusclops Cortana, which is the position I want to be in the first place, is because if they lead Weezing, I'm like, I don't know, like, it's, like, less flexible. If like, they lead Weezing, it's really bad into Urshifu lead. Yeah, but if I think you're going to lead Eleki, Regigigas, and not respect my Trick Room option, then I'm absolutely just going to lead Dusclops here. And additionally, I didn't know if the Rotom Heat was slower than my Feeny. In testing, we were testing with a slow Rotom Heat, which was stupid, so basically being in Trick Room wasn't that advantageous. But in this position, I know that my Feeny is slower, so I actually get a lot out of Trick Room. And because, like, Regieleki literally did nothing, I sacked it just to, like, get positioning, right? Like, yeah, I literally sacked it just for to do actually nothing last game. I figure, why not bring Glastrier, right? Because, I mean, alternate Maxmon, it's pretty, like, good into, like, getting, like, this team is it's 3 Special Mons and Regigigas, so getting Max Quake Boost is really helpful, especially if you take out Weezing, because then Regigigas isn't that threatening. And it's just like a solid, it gives me like an actual solid modded Trick Room as well. Yeah. So that's the game plan. So because I won the first game, I anticipate my opponent's going to do the same lead as before, which allows me the room to switch it up. And they actually do the same lead as before, Regigigas plus Regigigas. And yeah, the reason I lead these two is because these are the two Pokemon that do the best into Regigigas, right? Like, this Regigigas doesn't have any super effective moves for either of them. One of them's resist normal, the other one is immune to normal, and yeah, I'm just not taking that much damage in general. So I am deciding that, you know what, last game they just Volt switched into Rotom Heat. I don't want that to happen. Like, I don't want to just, like, immediately lose my max. So let me be a little smarter. Like, if I'm going to have to switch out turn 2 anyway, like, it doesn't really matter how much damage I take turn 1. I'm just going to Sacred Sword into the Regigigas, and try and get some damage off that way. And go for Trick Room here because, yeah, like, I have Horse and Feeny in the back, and those that's underspeed. They underspeed Feeny, underspeeds Wheezing, and underspeeds Regigigas and Neutralizing Gas. That underspeeds Rotom Heat, and underspeeds Urshifu, and underspeeds Regieleki. And because I led Regigigas, I know for a fact that they have Wheezing in the back, and I'm like 95% sure that they have Rotom Heat in the back. So I can assume it's the same Pokemon as well. Also, my playstyle is, like, I prefer to max after my opponent when I can. It's not always possible, but, like, ideally I'd stall my opponent's max and then get schmoving. So, yeah. So, not maxing Cortana, it wasn't my game plan. My game plan was always to max Cortana, but because my opponent is playing in a way that I didn't anticipate, I also had to kind of adapt on the fly. Yeah. So they go for Volt Switch again, this time just into my Cortana. Obviously, they lost last game just by like a little bit of damage on Cortana, so just getting the chip damage on it now is probably, it makes sense in my opinion. But yeah, I'm prepared to lose Cortana this turn. It doesn't really need to do anything here, in my opinion. Yeah. We'll see. I think they probably bring in Wheezing here, but I guess it could be Rotom. I think it's Wheezing, though. Because you max Regigigas to get the most value out of it, you really do want to be in Neutralizing Gas for the most part. So yeah, they're thinking about it. It's tricky, right? Like Wheezing, you don't want to bring in because you really don't want to take chip damage, because you want the Focus Sash. And Rotom, it also depends if Regigigas targeted Dusclops here or if it targeted Cortana. Wheezing does switch in though. I think that's the right move. Keep in mind this Wheezing does have Will-O-Wisp, so it's something I have to watch out for with my Glastrier. I go for Sacred Sword, just get some chip down. You can see it actually does good damage, like, given this is a pretty bulky Pokemon. And they go for Quake. So I don't think Cortana survives this. Let's see what it goes into. It is Cortana, so just kind of getting rid of that Pokemon immediately. Makes sense, you get a special defense boost in the process, so that is something I might have to haze away later. But overall, this is a pretty good turn for me, because although I lost a Pokemon, I used a turn to their max, and I can get Glastrier in for free, which is a Pokemon I didn't have access to before, and I got Trick Room up. So, yeah. So overall, this is, like, I think pretty solid for me. Trick Room goes up, 2 turns left of their max. I always go into Glastrier here. I need to get rid of this Wheezing to make it so that Regigigas isn't threatening. And also because I don't want it Will-O-Wisping and taunting me later. Also, I want Chilling Neigh. So, yeah. In this position, I realize, like, they're almost certainly either going to protect their Wheezing or switch into their Rotom Heat. So, I really have no reason to max this turn. Like, although, like, I do want to max eventually. Like, I don't want to just waste a max move, like, when I don't have to. And also, protecting is like a pretty solid. Please don't let me protect. Yeah. Also, this means that, like, I'll get 2 turns. Like even if I max the next turn, I'll get 2 turns out of max to their, like, you know, to deal with their 2 turn. I'll get 2 turns in max when they don't have Dynamax as well, or as a defensive option, which is pretty good because even though Rotom Heat is, like, traditionally thought of as a Glastrier counter, because I'm Life Orb Glastrier and, like, I have Max Hailstorm plus Hail Chip plus just plus the raw damage output plus Nightshade, like, I don't really consider Rotom Heat to be a very good answer to this Glastrier, especially since it probably has to switch into this slot, realistically. So, yeah, Wheezing's gonna go for Protect here. Nightshade comes out into the Wheezing. I had nothing better to do. Like, I could have hazed, I guess, but, like, I didn't, like, I was probably gonna have to haze again later anyway. And Nightshade was good just to cover options, like, in case they switched or, you know. The other really nice thing about this is that it ensures that the next attack I take from this Max Gigas is not a max move, because either they switch out and turn off neutralizing, or sorry, it just ensures that the next move I take from Regigigas is affected by slow start, is what I should say. Because with this play, like, they're welcome to stay into the Wheezing if they want. They really shouldn't though, because they're going to need Wheezing later. But even, like, if they do stay in here, the thing is that they'll just go down, and then I'll turn slow start back on, and if they switch out, then obviously slow start isn't in play as well. So that means that the max strike should do like 20 to 30% probably to my max blaster. It actually should do exactly as much as the protect. It did through protect. So yeah, they turn they switch out here. This is either going to be it should be Rotip Heat realistically. I don't think you sack Regigigas because it's actually pretty strong in this matchup, and also you don't want to give Glastrier Chilling Neigh because then it's just like actually do damage through protect. So from my opponent's perspective, they have to stall out my last 3 turns of Trick Room and my last 3 turns of Max. And then they have a chance at this because like they do have Taunt, which can stop my my Dusclops. They do have what else? They do have like strong special attacks, which are a problem for me. But I'm just going to double the slot here, get some big damage down. This isn't going to KO, but it should do like Rotip Heat is not a Glastrier answer in my opinion. You can see that even though this move is resisted, it's still going to do a ton of damage. And even though Rotom like obviously was the switch in here, it still takes a ton of damage in exchange for its service. So yeah, in my mind, what I'm thinking right now is if I can get Max Quake boosts on Dusclops, I should pretty much make that thing unkillable. And like although it's not enough to win me the game on its own, it'll probably help a fair bit as well. So yeah, Rotip Heat's the Citrus Berry, probably putting it. I think it's probably out of Nightshade range because of that. But yeah, you can see that this Max Strike does basically nothing, and now Regigigas' Max is over. So basically the game now just becomes, can I make the most of my remaining Trick Room turns? Because I have damage over Regigigas, I have Hail Up, which is actually a big deal because I need to break the Focus Sash and the Wheezing at some point, and so getting Hail Up early is good because of that. I've got a lot of damage on the Rotom, I have half damage on Regigigas, I have 2 turns left with Trick Room, I have 2 turns left with Max, but once Max ends, it can be really difficult for me because if I don't do enough damage, then like Regieleki can just blow through my team. So this turn I'm reading a Protect or I think I'm thinking that Rotom is in range of Nightshade actually. I think that's what I'm actually doing. And I really want Max Quake Boost on my Glastrier, on my Dusclops specifically because like I said, like it's going to be pretty difficult for my opponent to get damage on my Dusclops. So by going for Max Quake here into Regigigas, like they don't have Ally Switch, they don't really have a way to I don't think there's anything they can do to stop me from at least getting the Max Quake off even if it's into a Protect. Yeah, they actually switched Rotom back out. This should be, I think, Gigas or Wheezing. Yeah, good move. I could have doubled that slot there if I wanted. That kind of to me confirms that they might have less than 50 HP as well, but it's kind of a soft confirm. Regigigas goes for Protect, so it's just a defensive move for my opponent. Again, trying to stall out my turns of Max. I go for a Nightshade into the Wheezing here. Do some damage. Hail is up, so there's no real point in preserving the Focus Sash, which I agree with for my opponent. But yeah, they basically are trying to put themselves in a situation where they can taunt my Dusclops to prevent Trick Room from going up again. So it was a good switch in my opinion. And now it kind of forces me into this awkward position where like, obviously I want to get another Max Quake off to ensure that I'm like as bulky as possible. But if I Max Quake and they switch the slot into Rotom, it becomes actually pretty difficult. So yeah, it's good defensive play from my opponent. And they're definitely like making use of, or doing a good job of stalling on my last turn. So I'm thinking of a Max Quaking here. I think I'll go back and forth a couple times. The idea here is that if I double Regigigas with Nightshade Max Quake, okay, I made the right move. Then even if Rotom switches in, the move would just get redirected into the, it would get redirected into the Wheezing. So, yeah, getting the, like, basically getting the second special defense boost up is, like, really, really important for me because, now all 3 of the remaining Pokemon are special attackers, and Dusclops is already a really bulky Pokemon. Also, the +2 special defense in Glastrier doesn't hurt, because I don't know if I'll take a Thunderbolt from the Regieleki, but it might require like a double up now instead of just a single target attack. So yeah, getting +2 special defense is really nice. But I'm now out of Trick Room and they can taunt me. So this game is not over by any means because, like, yes, Dusclops is unkillable, but like I can only predict Glastrier once without it going down, and thinking. Oh my god, I heard a scream. I can only predict Glastrier once without going down, and my last Pokemon is Tapu Fini, who can't protect itself at all. So I don't remember what I do here, but I think it's probably optimal to just attack with Glastrier into Wheezing and Nightshade into Rotom, because in the worst case scenario, you get rid of Rotom and trade Glastrier for Rotom in the worst case scenario, and then they're stuck with Wheezing on the field, which means that they can't, like, if I Nightshade into Rotom here, then because of the Hail Chip, it should almost certainly go down, and then in the worst case scenario, they taunt me with Wheezing and they overheat into my Glastrier, we trade Glastrier for Rotom, Fini comes in, can click Muddy Water, and they've turned off their transistor, so I might actually survive. Although, because Wheezing's faster, that might not work. But I still think I like that play. Yeah, so as you can see here, the protection from the Glastrier is super obvious. So I think I'm agreeing with my past self here. Yeah, I like that play a lot. The protect is so obvious, and the Rotom really wants to protect itself here. So I decided to be a little bit more aggressive than I've been in the majority of the set, where I've played pretty safe, and just go for a high horsepower into the Weezing. So, yeah, high horsepower comes out into the Weezing. I do connect. It's not 100% accurate, so I do get lucky to hit that, and I KO the Weezing. Take some Life Orb chip as well. But getting rid of Weezing there is really good because it means that the taunt is now like limited and can't be refreshed, so that's good. There's my attack boost. Doesn't really matter. Glastrier is outgoing everything at this point anyway. Maybe it means I can close combat instead of high horsepowering into Regigigas, but yeah. And that last bit of Hail Chip, I'm pretty sure it was in range already, but for me that like 100% confirmed it because I thought it was already in range. Rotom's max HP is 157, so if you think about it being at a third of HP, that's like roughly a little bit more than 50, and I thought it was like slightly below a third. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I think that if they weren't at a third, they might have not protected there, but yeah. You see I checked a lot that Hail is over. Check that I'm at +2 special defense. Yeah. So I think there's no real reason to not protect here because Rotom just protected, so even in the worst case scenario where they double into my Dusclops, like they need a crit here to win, I think. And since I was just so aggressive with my Glastrier, they might expect me to just do it again. So they go for a Thunderbolt into my Dusclops. That's the correct targeting, but I am +2 special defense, and that's why it comes like into. That's why that's so handy. Yeah, they just overheat. It's a good move. It covers the options. Yeah, and I Nightshade into the Rotom Heat here, picking up the KO. So now it's a 3 versus 1. However, I could still lose this because Regigigas can one-shot my Feeny in the back. So how do I get around that, right? Well, I know what I should do. I either pray that I'm not in range of Thunderbolt right now, which frankly I'm probably not. Like, I'm probably not in range, but I think that I have a safer play, which is if I switch into Feeny and Nightshade here. Wait, but then that might always turn into a 50-50. I have one turn of Taunt left is the thing, so I can't. I want to obviously just like protect set Trick Room or like switch set Trick Room, but I can't because of the. Yeah, I can't because of the threat. Yeah, I think I had the same thought process then that I had now, which is that if I was thinking if I switch into Feeny and Nightshade, then in the worst case scenario they Thunderbolt into Dusclops, and then next turn they're forced to. Oh wait, isn't that better? Wait, why is that not better? If I Nightshade and switch, I think that was slightly better because if they Thunderbolt into Feeny, like, wait, if they Thunderbolt into Feeny. What happens if they Thunderbolt into Feeny? If they Thunderbolt into Feeny, then I go back into Glastrier, then I can protect Trick Room, and then I win. If they Thunderbolt into Dusclops, and they don't crit, then I think that was better. I think switching here is better. Oh. Wait, you just... No, switch. I also may have just thought that I wasn't in range of Thunderbolt. They Thunderbolt to Glastrier. I survive. Yeah, I guess that was just like me predicting that I would survive. I don't like it, but it's what I did. In close combat picks up the KO there. So yeah, I'm actually able to win. Now, even though this is a 2-0, I think it's worth noting that, like, I think that realistically, I don't think that I was... Like, I think that I kind of won Game 1 and Game 2 off of one overheat miss. Which is... And what I mean by that is, like, I mentioned going into Game 2 that, like, I had the ability to adjust, right? I predicted how my opponent was going to react to in Game 2 after losing Game 1 and some luck, and so I was able to kind of counter-lead what I expected them to lead. I wouldn't have been able to do that with such certainty without winning Game 1. Like, winning Game 1, and especially winning Game 1 in a way that, like, I wasn't especially deserved, made it so that I could predict how my opponent would behave. So even though I like, technically only won one game off of overheat, I think that it really gave me a lot of momentum and a lot of leeway in the set to play more aggressively. Because that second game was, like, it was a lot less close, but, like, it still feels like a close set. Like, I think this probably might have even been like a 0-2, like 0 wins, 2 losses, if the overheat Game 1 connects. Because it allows my opponent to play a lot more aggressively, a lot more riskier, and stuff like that. So... I think this is a really interesting use case where, like, maybe use case is the wrong word, but, like, it's an interesting example for me where, like, even though I won 2-0, like, this felt to me like it should have been an 0-2. Like, I was a little shook after this game, I'm not gonna lie. And I definitely made mistakes. I definitely, like, I feel pretty solid about my play game too. Like, I think I made some smart calls. I think I, like, wasn't, I did some interesting things for the most part. I think I still played well Game 2, and I don't think I played horribly Game 1, but I had some pretty massive oversights that, like, should have cost me the game. Yeah, so I don't know. Even though it was a 2-0, like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't, like I said, after this, like, I didn't feel like I 2-0'd my opponent. Like, I really did feel like I got 0-2'd, and I just, like, I don't know, like, got played a reverse card or something. So, I think this is an interesting set. It's my opponent's a high level player, so like it was definitely like it was a set I should have lost game one, and I don't know if I would have lost the set after that. Like I really can't say for sure, but yeah, like I guess it's a good example of like not only sometimes you get lucky and win games that you probably shouldn't be winning, but also like how momentum works in a set and how momentum can be something tangible, like you like deciding that your opponent's going, or intuiting that your opponent's going to do the same thing game one when they felt like they should have won, right? And that might, like, being able to read that and to predict that might be something that's obvious to everybody, or it might be something that I know because I've been playing for a while. I really don't know because I only have my own perspective. But yeah, overall, I felt like after the set, I was happy I won. I only had to win one more of the next two sets to make it into the global finals. However, I was also a little bit shaken because I felt like I wasn't really playing up to snuff, and I felt like I was making mistakes. Which, watching this back, I was. So, yeah, anyway, I had like a bunch of content surrounding Regigigas and never gave you guys the actual match, so I wanted to record this for you all. But I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below. I know this is a bit more serious, a bit more, thinking, like analytical than some of my other content, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Yeah, and I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Probably more tournaments on the channel soon, so look forward to that. Goodbye.